Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 19 of Code Geass R2. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, things were really dire. Suzaku launched the nuke, and Nunnally was in all likelihood caught up in the blast along with most of the Tokyo settlement. So, things aren't good. Lelouch was kind of holding on by a thread, and Rollo wasn't remarkably helpful. Oh dear. So, 35 million people estimated dead. That's real bad. And now Nina is, perhaps grasping that maybe launching a nuclear weapon was not a good idea. Too little too late, And I guess fortunately for Suzaku, he's not entirely aware of what he's done. He can only sort of assume. But, oh boy. So, at the very least, everyone's sort of recognizing that, a real line has been crossed here. But, unfortunately, Lelouch is in no fit state to do anything but try and find Nunnally, but she's vapor, So I feel it important to bring up at this point that, I was sort of thinking the other day that we don't have a body for Nunnally, which, I kind of wouldn't expect, but also Rollo was the one who said she got caught up in the blast, and, I've got a healthy antipathy for Rollo, so, I think it's not as bad as things seem. I think Nunnally might still be alive. But that said, the situation is well and truly dire, because even if she wasn't caught up in the blast, then, she's got to live through this, the aftermath, which is certainly no good thing. I guess the question is, what's gonna happen now? I mean, Cornelia's being saved by a diplomatic envoy. Oh, that's probably Nunnally, isn't it? Oh, no, okay. Schneizel. So, he's sort of a, I don't want to say a wild card, but he's certainly in charge of a lot of things, and he's not an entirely known quantity. Ooh, so this is not good. Zero's giving an order, search for Nunnally, but Todo and the others are essentially ignoring him and falling back. So, I recognize that that's the pragmatic thing to do, but at the same time, that is sort of violating the chain of command. I feel like there will be consequences for this. Ooh, unfortunately, C2 might be forced to bear the brunt of the consequences. I mean, if we lived in a good and just world, Lelouch would probably just shoot Rollo in the head right now. But, unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. Oh, no, hold on. Lelouch clearly recognizes that charm and how that was Nunnally's, and with Rollo having it, like... Oh, boy. Alright, so he's being entirely tactless now that, like, look, I plan on giving this to Nunnally, you're a fake. Just sort of revealing all the cards he had. Alright, so I understand that Lelouch is, decidedly unhappy, but I feel like maybe rather than exiling this dangerous person, you should perhaps, just kill them instead. To admit, like, I've tried to kill you several times and have been unsuccessful, like, maybe you should only say that if you have ensured a successful method, you know? For an episode entitled Betrayal, you know, there's a whole bunch going around, because on the one hand, you know, you have the Black Knights sort of disobeying Lelouch's orders, and now you have, this situation with Rollo. You have, well, a whole bunch of stuff, like Nina saying, like, oh man, I'm responsible for everyone's death. You know, I am become, and all that. Like, she has essentially betrayed Tokyo by leading up to the events that caused it to be nuked. So the situation is very not good. There's clearly a fair bit of dissension in the ranks of the Black Knights here. So it's interesting that Toto just wants to talk to Schneizel and see what's going on here. I guess that's probably the reasonable thing to do, seeing as how the leader of the enemy came here to discuss things. But at the same time, you know, maybe it would be a bit more tactful to take him prisoner or something. Like, I don't know, this is a very dangerous territory to be in with nuclear weapons flying around, and for Zero to be so obviously out of commission... Alright, at least Jeremiah is looking around searching for Nunnally. Like, you can always count on good old Agent Orange. Now, unfortunately, he hasn't found Nunnally yet, but he has found Suzaku, and I feel like Suzaku would probably be in a similar boat of just trying to find anyone who may have survived. Which, you know, I feel like isn't going to be too many people, considering the nature of the blast. Ooh. You know, it's never a good thing when Schneizel's like, no, I want this guy to be part of the Black Knight delegation to discuss things. Like, I feel like it's never good when your enemy's like, no, you're doing the right thing. So this is an interesting little conversation here that Jeremiah and Suzaku get to talking. You know, obviously Suzaku's not up for talking, but, you know, these two characters, they've had a lot of history. Okay, you know I said Nunnally is still alive, but I'm feeling less and less sure that this is the case. So at least some of the student council managed to survive. I guess really the bulk of it did manage to survive, but, man. Okay, so Dieter's saying, like, Zero won't be joining us to Schneizel. I feel like that's... I don't know. I guess you do sort of have to explain the absence some way, but just sort of freely admitting that to the enemy. Oh. So Schneisel's really just dropping a bomb here that Zero is actually related to him. A Britannian prince. Which, The Black Knights aren't taking it remarkably well. Which I guess makes sense to a degree, but I feel like, if you're fighting for the independence of Area 11, beggars can't really be choosers. I feel like you would have to take whatever allies you can. And at least Dieter has the sort of rational explanation. Like, we don't care about his lineage, we care about the things he's done. Ooh. So for Schneisel to just disclose the Geass and its hypnotizing powers, that's unfortunate, because I feel like this is also going to come with the revelation that certain people have been affected by it. Oh, and now Ogi. Darn, this is not good indeed. Because, Ogi was always sort of like the heart of the group. And if he's dead set against Zero now, which indeed he seems to be, then this really bodes poorly. I think this was the betrayal the title was making reference to. But, I suppose we're only halfway through the episode. There's time for more betrayal. And, he is saying that Zero's using them as pawns, but I mean, I can understand being upset about that, but to a degree, like, what else do you expect if you're fighting a war? The standard infantry can't expect to be, treated on par with the generals and all that. So it's unfortunate that everyone sort of misunderstands what's going on with Euphemia. Ooh. So unfortunately, Lelouch did admit to that, and it was kind of short-sighted of him to admit to that, because it isn't strictly true. Wow. So Schneisel really came prepared with like an entire dossier of people suspected to have been Geassed, many of whom were from the Japanese Liberation Front. All those guys who are now dead. Yeah, this is gonna be a really tough pill to swallow for the Britannians. So I guess it's unfortunate that while this isn't the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, it does answer quite a lot of lingering questions various people might have had. And it also opens up new doubts about whether or not they are acting of their own free will. And, that's a tough pill to swallow for people, to have not been acting of their own free will. So I guess the question is, where do things go from here? Because it would make sense for the Black Knights to just sort of disintegrate under their own weight and all that. But given that the title of the episode is Betrayal, I get the feeling they're going to go along with Schneisel here and turn Zero over. Alright, so Schneisel's being tactful. It's like, look, okay, you guys don't actually have any bargaining power, but I'll at least hear you out. And, that's kind of a big ask from Ogi, that he wants Area 11 to be Japan again. I figured he would ask for amnesty or something like that, which, while a big ask, is more readily allowable. So now C2 is tending to Lelouch. I get the feeling things are gonna escalate. Well, maybe not anymore. So Kellan, I don't know if she knows what's going on. She claims not to. But oh man. That was really tactless of C2. So, like, Zero's gonna be walking into a trip, but he's already fighting a war on two fronts here between Callan and C2. At least he's sort of explaining things. It's like, look, you know, she's not the person you knew, that person no longer exists. But at the same time, that's not gonna get him out of much of anything, really. Man, so I feel like Callan's in for a real rough go of things because C2's gone, Nunnally's gone, Lelouch is going to be gone shortly if all goes to plan with Ogi. You know, I feel like Callan doesn't have too many lifelines to cling on to if things continue to get worse. And it seems like things are about to get worse. Wow. So everyone's doing it, just betraying him, and Dieter's in on it too. You know, that's probably the least surprising thing, that the journalist betrayed him. So I guess the question is, where do things go from here? I mean, I feel like he hasn't Geassed a fair few of these people, so he could probably get out of it by doing something like that. But, I mean, there are people with guns, there are nightmare frames, like, I don't know. This isn't something that's easy to get out of, even for Zero. So unfortunately, it's all coming down to uncomfortable questions from Callan, like, what am I to you? There's no good answer to that question, I feel like, so unfortunately, he's gonna have to prioritize survival. And Callan's question is sort of antithetical to considering what's going on. So this is interesting. You know, Lelouch is just leaning into it. It's like, yeah, you guys are all pawns. I've been using you. And to tell Callan that she was his most brilliant pawn, you know, I guess that's nice in a way, but a pawn is still a pawn. I'm wondering what his play is here. Like, is the idea that he wants to keep the Black Knights as a unified force, even if he does die? I mean, I'm not prepared to... Yeah, there we go. I wasn't prepared to, accept he would die, and accept dying. So Rollo swoops in. You know, I can't say I like that. Yeah, I guess that's the quick way out, for Rollo to swoop in, use his Geass, and get out of Dodge. Well, this complicates things a little bit, because I still do hope Rollo dies horribly, no less, but I feel like in saving Lelouch, he does sort of redeem himself a little bit. Alright, so Lelouch was well and truly intending to die. So we do know at this point that Rollo's Geass is kind of a dangerous thing even to the user, because the user's own heart stops during the time of the Geass. I feel like that's probably how he's gonna die, you know, just using it a little bit too much. Because, you know, your heart can like skip a beat and you'll be okay, but I feel like if it does it a lot, you know, in a prolonged sort of way, then, you know, you do start to suffer the ill effects from it. And to sort of stop time in such a way as to crash a bunch of nightmare frames over such a wide area, I feel like, you know, you can only do that so many times before you really can't hold on much longer. And I think we're getting there. I guess it's just a shame that Rollo does something worthwhile instead of just, you know, being shot or squashed by a nightmare frame or something. I mean, he says, I was finally able to become human. Like, You know, I get why he feels like that, but let's not go that far. Let's not be hasty. Wow, that's, I don't like that. I don't like Lelouch saying, like, hey, do you want to die, as a means of getting him to back off and stop. Like, I get Lelouch probably, like, told him he tried to kill him. Like, that was an outburst out of anger and all that, but, like, it's no less true just because he's upset. I guess Rolo's just gonna give him an out. Like, look, you were lying about trying to kill me, right? That is very weak to lie. Like, I guess I get it. You know, you want someone to die with dignity even if you do have to lie a little bit, but... man, Rolo doesn't deserve that. Oh dear. So I guess Lelouch is well and truly alone at this point, right? Like, he's turned on everyone. Rolo's dead. Although, Suzaku's lost it, so maybe he's willing to side with Lelouch now. Who knows? Man, this is really the belly of the beast, isn't it? Like, Lelouch has lost everything, and, even so, he's still got to continue on somehow, right? Like, I mean, surely he can't just live in peace. Like, he's wanted by everyone, and, you know, I'd imagine they're going to be playing for keeps here, so... you know, I guess if that wasn't bad enough, the Emperor is still pursuing that Ragnarok correction thing, which is... you know, it seems catastrophic to the world. You know, the old order will crumble, a new world will be born, and all that. Oh dear indeed. Lelouch has his work cut out for him. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.